just going into making a left, or a U-turn rather. I stand correct, making a U-turn. Looks like he may want to get back on the freeway. That construction may have gotten in his way, but he's now going the opposite way. Does he go under the freeway? We'll see here. This is again an area that we have been in before. This is all freeway that he has covered previously in this pursuit, at times making it all the way into the city of Commerce, which is about where we are now. You see those FedEx trucks, lots of warehouses and industrial complexes in this area. But we're now going westbound on Atlantic Boulevard. Something tells me that he is finding some form of entertainment with this. It just doesn't appear that he has a clear destination in mind, just kind of taking police along for the joyride on a Friday night through the streets of Bell Gardens and neighboring municipalities here as he continues just past 3rd Street, back in the Cudahy area.
Coming to you live.
All right, now on surface streets, and of course, whenever one of these gets on the surface streets and gets off the freeways, it adds that dimension of cross traffic, other vehicles, pedestrians that could be in the way and could potentially cause a problem here. And he has, as we've seen, run through red lights, although he's got green lights in his direction at this moment. The speed's not excessive, as you're seeing. Our Sky Map technology keeping track of the surface, the speed of this vehicle, 41 miles an hour now. The speed limit down there is probably 35. So not excessive speeds, and at the moment, the great good fortune of having green lights in his favor. But things can change, and they often do. And we're going to keep an eye on this. Go ahead.
Just in the last few minutes, I mean, since we've been on the air, he has basically done an entire another loop here just east of the 710 freeway. Again, we're now going southbound on Atlantic, slowing down here, okay, continuing on. At one point earlier in the pursuit, I should mention, it really looked like, just based on experience, it kind of seemed like they were about to dump the vehicle, or at the very least, it looked like the passenger was showing signs of maybe jumping out and taking off. The passenger side door popped open for a brief moment and then closed again, and then the pursuit continued. And we still have at the very least, that driver and passenger in the front. Unclear whether there's anybody in the back, but there have been moments in this pursuit where you almost had the feeling that they were about to either give up or at least drop off that passenger. In the meantime, he's now gotten off of Atlantic, back onto Gage, which we were on just a couple of minutes ago. This time we're going in the westbound direction. But it just appears that he is going to use up all the gas in this tank before most likely, probably, hopefully, peacefully giving himself up.
Right, and so we haven't seen any sorts of aggressive moves from the pursuing officers. No attempt that we have seen at a pit maneuver. You said, as you pointed out earlier, that there have been several opportunities for a spike strip, especially, you know, in the fact that he's doing these loops and coming back into the same neighborhoods. So they're not doing that. They may be content to let him just keep going until he runs out of gas. That's maybe the safest option, given the fact that the speeds are not excessive. He's not going into oncoming traffic, and the risk.
This might be a dead end.
Is
it's a T intersection. I thought that might be a dead end that he was coming up on. Really just kind of weaving through this residential neighborhood as he continues. Look at that, more folks.
Somebody else threw something out.
Yeah.
Looked like they threw a water bottle out.
Yep. It's incredible. It's funny because how do they know? I mean, granted, he's kind of, well, I guess it just really speaks to the pattern that he's been able to establish here. Because even the people that are at home watching this know that it's coming their way. They must be watching on their cell phones. It has to be the case that they are watching and tracking this pursuit, because they seem to be well aware that he is coming into their neighborhood in advance of his arrival, enough to gather in groups and gather objects to throw at him. Very unusual, very peculiar, something we don't see very often. But in this case, these folks on a Friday night appear to want to get involved here and take part in this pursuit. In the meantime, he seems to be enjoying it and just taking police along for the ride here back on Florence Avenue. We are traveling westbound on Florence, this time away from Bell Gardens. But if we, well, there he goes around around that car at the intersection there. Again, we've seen him with no hesitation blowing through red lights. Occasionally, he'll do what he did right there, but it's been very rare that we see him do things like getting into oncoming lanes of traffic or that kind of thing. And he's not going excessively fast, although just above the speed limit to be sure. But you can see still all 8 of those Bell Gardens police officers staying right behind him. You know, this was an LAPD's jurisdiction, for example. We might see 2 or 3 that would take that would keep up with them for this long. We're talking about a 2.5 hour long pursuit at this point. This is a good chunk of Bell Gardens resources that are now outside of the city of Bell Gardens, following along in this pursuit with their lights and sirens on.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to point out, too, that as he made that right turn onto Florence, I am almost positive I saw an attempt at a spike strip. It was visible for about a second, maybe a little less, in the bottom right corner of our screen as he made that right turn. There's the guy. This is a very clear shot of the guy behind the wheel. He's got on a baseball cap turned backwards. He's got his mask on. The mask now pulled down. That's a long sleeve dark shirt, and you can see his passenger there as well. He did apparently try to do a spike strip. It never got close to the vehicle.
It's tough, you know. Spike strips, when you see them successful, it requires a bit of luck and a lot of skill, but very hard. Even when they do establish a pattern, very hard to execute. Although they do have the lack of traffic in their advantage here this evening. There has not been a whole lot of traffic either on the surface streets or on the freeway, for that matter. For the most part, he's had most of these roads completely to himself.
Coming
if
to
they
you
wanted
live,
to try
ladies and gentlemen.
spike strip, there's been several points
Saturday
where
morning,
we've seen
man.
them
Most
at least in position ahead of him at intersections awaiting his arrival, but I hadn't seen any until you mentioned that one right there. We may have seen our first spike attempt there, but clearly, if it was a spike attempt, it was
coming to you
live
from Cali.
In any way whatsoever.
We coming to you live from Cali.
It occurs to me, you know, people throwing stuff at this guy, they may know him, they may not, but maybe they're just tired of seeing this. You know, they're tired of criminals. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's enough. Just that people don't want to see somebody going through their neighborhood and breaking the law and causing this kind of havoc. Maybe that's just enough. But because it's more than one person who has thrown something at this car. Some people, of course, are you know, just there to record it with their cell phones, but others are really deciding to take action.
Yeah, and now we're a little bit of a ways away from that neighborhood where we saw that bottle being thrown, but still in the vicinity as we enter Bell, I think, or maybe back in Cudahy as we continue westbound. But they appear to be tracking this on their cell phones and probably really able to anticipate the arrival based on the number of sirens. You have about 7 or 8 sirens blaring through these neighborhoods. Now the suspect coming to a complete stop. Look at this. Look at this. What was that?
What's that? He just dropped
the keys just came in. He came to a full stop, randomly came to a full stop in the middle of the intersection. You gotta wonder what the gas situation is for him to randomly come to a stop in the middle of the intersection, East Florence Avenue and Santa Fe Avenue, as Bell Gardens Police gets ready to attempt a felony stop. The driver and passenger with their arms out the windows.
Tell me why.
The vehicle appears to be off, or at the very least, it looks like he threw a set of keys out the window. As you mentioned, on a long lanyard there.
Oh, man.
There's a canine unit.
The numbers don't lie.
Are they going to use
dogs are ready. Yep. And he's ready just in case.
Can't wait to get at these guys. We'll see if
That's crazy. Trained to kill.
If they comply, the dog will not be required.
You can't make this stuff up, ladies.
They appear to be ready to comply with those orders just based on what we're seeing here. We're going to loosen it up just a little bit because you just never know. At this point of a pursuit termination is really the most dangerous seconds of an ordeal like this, because you just don't know what the situation is inside the vehicle.
You don't look like a brother,
you don't have a real great idea,
you know what I mean? Do your research.
The intentions of the driver, the state of mind, and we already know that at least 1 or 2 firearms have been tossed out the window. So it looks like the driver is stepping out of the vehicle. per instructions of Bell Gardens police, slowly opening the door, stepping out of the vehicle, and his arms and hands are clearly visible as he backs up with his hands on his head, stepping towards them and following their each and every command.
Oh, man,
Right.
do your research.
Which is very smart because he's got about 8 guns trained on him plus a dog.
Yeah, it's the best you could hope for. You know the potential
Man,
is
you know,
always so dangerous.
I'd rather get
This
popped
could
than
go
get
sideways
chewed on
in
by a
number of
dog,
different
being
ways.
fucking
It was
with
just
rats.
hours ago that we saw a
Okay.
wild
I
pursuit
want that
earlier
dog a
today,
rat to go. He
where
rat.
you had a suspect
That dog a rat.
attempting to carjack other vehicles and endanger other lives. In this case, it does appear that the joyride has come to an end, and the driver
live from
is now
Cali,
peacefully giving himself up. Next order of business will be taking that passenger into custody. They will then clear
He
the
got on a
bags of the
mask and all
vehicle.
that.
But
Come
at this
on,
point,
man.
it looks
Driving
like just the
mask in the
driver
car.
and the passenger. This
Mask in
pursuit
the car.
coming to a full end here. South.
live in California.
Well, the driver's in
Scoopy in the
custody.
building.
Now they're going to
Scoopy
get the
Newz.
passenger. And with any luck, it's going to go
man.
the same way. And as you mentioned, they'll clear the car. And
Look at the numbers on the
but we
cars,
are close
babe.
to
Do
the
your
end of
research,
the,
man.
And this is at the intersection
Coming to you
again of
live,
Santa
babe.
Fe and what is it?
You can't make this
Santa
stuff
Fe
up, ladies and
Florence
gentlemen.
Avenue, right on the edge of Huntington Park and Southgate, I would say.
Okay. And
Even
so
through the
far,
corona,
news
boy,
is
people
good.
still doing that
One
hot
suspect in
pursuit.
custody. Nobody's been hurt.
Cops is happy as hell.
Accidents
Yes.
that we know of during this
Bored as
pursuit.
hell. We need something to do.
Sideswipe it. So this is about the best way that this could end. Suspect number 2 coming out. Also,
You never know what people's intentions are when they doing this type of stuff, so you gotta be very cautious, okay?
Looks like we had
Research don't matter.
Yep,
Everybody
hands on
buys
his head,
you don't know what that guy was doing, man.
stepping away from the vehicle,
Okay.
back in their direction. They will
We
peacefully take him into custody and
from Cali.
in short order give the code 4. Hopefully once they clear that vehicle, they'll attempt to pop the trunk here after they take him into custody and make sure there's nobody else inside that car. But a 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours maybe, pursuit. I don't have the exact time of when it started, but a lengthy pursuit to say the least, coming to an end here in Southgate.
all right, and we'll
Flavor to the
hopefully we'll get some more
flavor,
information about the
Scoopy
crime
Newz.
that may be
Coming to you
involved
live,
here. We
man.
know
Why?
they were wanted for
Straight to California,
alleged
man. Stop
vandalism,
playing with me, man.
but there was at least one weapon was thrown out of the window.
We'll find that.
during
You'll
the
find
pursuit.
that.
That weapon was recovered.
I'm sure.
So there's more to this than
Do
just
your
vandalism,
research.
and hopefully we'll find out what that is. But this looks like it's over.
turkey and cheese
And
sandwich. That's
both
all it
suspects
was.
are in custody.
I mean, it was
Nobody
a
hurt.
turkey and
And
cheese
we
sandwich.
move on to the rest of tonight's news that we can get to at 11 p.m.